Hi, I'm Eddie of Eddie's Reef Aquaria. Today's weekly video is going to be on the recent purchase that I did from Worldwide Corals, the Duncan Coral frag. I'm going to talk about it, like the care requirements, what you should know briefly about the coral. And then at the end, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain and show you a couple of corals that I've moved around. So I hope you enjoyed the video, but before I start, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and that little bell. Hold on. Okay, so as you see, focus on the actual coral. First of all, these corals are LPS corals. In other words, large polyp stony corals. And they come from the genus Duncan Coral. They're also called whisker corals or daisy corals. Now, these type of corals are mainly a beginner's coral and are found in the Australian waters. They are known to be a branching coral and are found in either a green or teal color, like this head, you're noticing it, and can grow to large colonies, but it'll take, I'd say, within a few years. Because of that factor, they are known, they are slow grower. Like I've mentioned on previous videos, people that follow me, some corals grow faster, other grow slower. Now, when it comes to lighting, well, these corals really, what they need is really low light, but can be acclimated to higher par values. Then water flow, I'd say between medium and high water flow. Right there where I have it, I would say it's within medium, although it's on the lower quadrant of the tank. But if you notice, the feelers, the tentacles, they are waving quite a lot. So that's an ideal place for the coral, although I did place it on a larger piece of rubble rock. So when it starts to create heads, then I might move it around, but always keeping it on the lower quadrant. And now when it comes to water chemistry, well, people that follow me know what I mean when I say within normal limits, which means, like a normal temperature of 76 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Salinity, I'd say 1.025 to 26. Calcium 450 or a little higher. DKH around 8.7. I would say the mag 1350, a little higher. pH 8.0 or above. And then one concern though, when it comes to water chemistry and these corals, you have to be careful with the NO3, in other words, the nitrates. Because if the nitrates are known to be a little higher, let's say above 10, that you might have issues. It doesn't like very dirty water. So you have to keep a check on the NO3s to make sure that you have it between, I'd say, 10 or 15 or below, but not like 20 or 30. You might run into an issue with this coral when it comes to being happy and opening up and flourish like you see this one. And then when it comes to feeding, well, these corals take in mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, krill, LPS pellet foods. And one thing that I found out about these corals should not be fed daily. You can feed them, but I would say like every other day, because if you overfeed them, those tentacles, some food, especially like pellet foods or something, might stay in between those tentacles, and it might cause the food to decay. Or if you have shrimps or even fish, they'll find the food and they might pick on it and they might actually hurt one of those feelers, one of those tentacles that you're looking at as we speak. The care level, I'd say between easy and moderate. And then finally, the temperament, it's I would say peaceful to semi-aggressive. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera and I'm going to show you the different corals that I moved around and glued. Okay, so the first coral I want to talk about, of course, is the blasto. Last week I talked about the blasto. When I purchased it, I went ahead and I added it to a little rubble, a little bigger rubble. And I used to have it right down there if you see the previous videos. But if you look closely, there is little heads that are popping out on the right and going down like a rim, like a happy face, a bottom curvature. So I did notice that sometimes either snails or little crabs and all that are in the system, what happens is they'll go ahead and flip it. In other words, it'll fall towards the front. So as I mentioned on the previous video that I was thinking of gluing it to the rockwork, either around there or higher. Well, I decided to use that same rockwork, and so what I went ahead, there was like a little cave there, and I went ahead and I glued it there. Of course, with the two-part epoxy and then the BSI glue that I use. So there it's actually anchored. There's no way that you know, a snail or whatever is going to flip it. And that rock is fairly big. It comes like, let's say from here, it goes from there all the way to where the organ pipe coral is. So it's not going to go anywhere, and then as the heads start to protrude and come out, I won't have the issue that I was talking about on the previous video where it might tilt and fall. Okay, and the other coral, of course, is the gorgonian. I placed it first when I wanted to like move it around. I moved it all the way to the back, and it was touching different areas and all that. So I've been working with it back and forth because these gorgonians, as you must be aware, they have that whipping action. In nature, that's where they get their shall we say, their nutrients, not only from the sun, because this one is a photosynthetic type. So not only do they get the nutrients from the sun, but also from the plankton that goes around it. So you really need it to be loose, not touching a rock or touching the glass or the back panel. So it was like a little mission, but eventually I was able to do it with a little trial and error, moving it around until I actually found the perfect spot. I'm going to go ahead and take a closer shot so you can appreciate what I'm talking about. Hold on. Okay, so this is what you have to see. If you decide to buy a gorgonia, this is what you're looking for, that it's free of any obstacles that touches it. So like if you look here on the right hand side, the actual stem that's coming out is not touching the rock. The ones on the front, the same thing, the one on the back. And also towards the left is not touching the glass. So this is what you want to see. This is the effect that you actually want to give when it comes to the gorgonians. I tried it when I originally got it. If you notice and you follow me, it was closer towards the front. Then I placed it on the back, and it was touching rocks and it was touching the wall on the back. That's what you have to try to avoid, because as you notice, it's got all those polyps that are extending out, and that's those polyps, that's where they get their nutrient. Although this is a photosynthetic gorgonia, and it lives, of course, for the photosynthesis from the sun, but also any plankton, any nutrient that it grabs, you want to make sure that those polyps are always extended and it's not touching the rock or the panel on the side or on the back. Well, like I've said in the last section of the video, where I moved some corals around and I went ahead and glued the blasto. But if you follow me and you go to other videos, you'll notice that I usually move corals around. Now, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people, even to the LFS, even worldwide corals. I'm there regularly, and I'll look at their display tanks, and all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, this coral was here, now they move it. Sometimes it's for aesthetic purposes, and other times it's because, like I've mentioned in previous videos, you have to learn to observe your corals. So like, let's say, no matter what I say or other YouTubers say, it should be on low light, high flow, medium this or medium that, but sometimes in reference to the light penetration. Sometimes with that and the clarity of your water, not necessarily would constitute on an aquarium or another place or a fellow hobbyist that he puts a coral, let's say, at mid-level. You might have to put it lower level because your lights might have a higher par value. They're much stronger, so, and if they're not adjustable, then you have to play around with the positioning of the corals versus lowering or raising your intensities on the ones that are controllable, like this one, like the Radion. So sometimes not only do people move corals to make a certain impact, a certain focus, but sometimes you'll see that corals like it better lower or upper levels of your reef. So that's something to consider. But in my case, it was really not that specifically. It was just that I needed to actually glue the blasto, and then I'm playing around with the gorgonian because I want it to be free floating, free waving. And on the spot that I have it, and like I said before, trying to put it on the back, it really is touching different parameters of the tank. But well, moving along, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell. And like I say at the end of all of my videos, happy reefing. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye-bye.